My name is Sandra Bullock, and I play Loretta Sage in Lost City. It was several years ago. It was brought to me as an actor and a producer. And I think it had been sitting on a shelf for about 7 years. And I'd read it before, a couple years before, and I was like, no, it's not my cup of tea. And then I read it again, and either life had changed and my perceptions had changed, or I was ready to do something like that. And I said, okay, let's do it. And then I called up my friend Liza Chase, and I said, you want to team up? She said, yeah. And then we got to Dana Fox, the brilliant Dana Fox, our writer, and had her delve in with us. Loretta Sage is a writer of many, many romance novels. She's a shut-in. She would prefer to stay home and eat cheese in the safety of her home. Nothing wrong with that, right? And she experienced loss years before and just has found great comfort in her home, in her books, and in her words, and in her brain. She doesn't feel the need to go out and have an adventure because she writes about it. So she experiences it in her imagination, but she doesn't feel the need to physically go out and have adventures until The Lost City is a book that she has written. She's a historical writer, basically, and she just would add some sex to it in order to get it to sell because no one was buying history books. And she found great success that way, but this book she just can't seem to finish. She doesn't have the ending. So she just sort of quickly wraps it up, gets the book out there because she doesn't feel she has any more in her. They bring in the cover model of the book, played by Channing Tatum, to the convention because Loretta, anything that comes out of her mouth will bore people to tears. So they know in order to keep it sexy and fun, they must have the cover model there. And what happens after that is she gets kidnapped. He feels bad. He has to go get her, and they're stuck in the jungle. This is always an action adventure that had romance is the through line, and seasoned with a bit of comedy. You know, we kept thinking, why do the films that have romance in them not have the comedy part with the adventure? Like, you either have rom-com or you have action adventure. So we got a little ambitious, but we got ambitious because we knew we could pull it off. We knew it would be this funny. Because of the subject matter, you put oil and vinegar together, you're gonna have problems, and hopefully those problems are funny. You have someone who shouldn't be in nature. You have a cover model who is trying to be the hero to get the shut-in author out of the jungle, and neither one of them should be in any atmosphere other than a hermetically sealed building with air conditioning. I had to learn how to navigate in a onesie jumpsuit with a pair of heels in the jungle with no restrooms. For 12-hour days. So what you do is you don't drink water and you pray. That was my training. I did a lot of praying for the end of the day so that I could unzip the onesie and get out of it in the middle of the jungle. Here's the nice thing about Chan is that he's a physical comedian. He's a comic who physically uses his body to convey the joke. I understand that. That's how I operate. And it's so nice to have a partner that you feel, A, as comfortable as I did with Channing. B, we have really good timing. We're different enough that we complement each other, but we're also really helpful to the other one. If someone bats something at you, the other one will. But it's all physical. And, this whole film we were glued at each other's sides. So you have to really like the person and feel safe with them, and I really did, and I hope he felt the same with me, but I just like being in his presence. I like trying to see what physically we could come up with that day in a tight situation, because it was always in a tight, uncomfortable situation. Channing Tatum brings to Dash a gold mine. I mentioned he's a physical comic. He's just so self-deprecating. There's nothing about him that's ego-driven in the role of Dash, which is so important because Dash is such an innocent. He is not a narcissist. Dash is just wide-eyed and sweet, and not many people can play that because there's not many wide-eyed, sweet people, but Channing has such an intuition comedically about Dash and how to play it. It was just so sweet. And then on top of it, he's really handsome, and he's Channing. He's got a six-pack, and I don't. So I'm glad one of us had it, and I'm glad he was willing to take his shirt off and his pants, because I wasn't. So that's what he brings to it. Ass and abs. Sorry. Is that disrespectful? I think not. The fabulous Daniel Radcliffe plays our villain. But the brilliance of our villain is that he has to be the most affable, seductive, normal, wealthy, handsome, non-threatening villain at first. And then you slowly see him unravel. And Daniel has these piercing blue eyes. And they're either the softest, sweetest, most inviting pair of eyes. And then when he starts going nuts, his transformation into Fairfax, the evil part of Fairfax, is very creepy. He's brilliant. He's a brilliant actor who we've seen grow up in front of our eyes. And to me, the most exciting character in this film, I think what I'm excited for audience to experience is the Daniel Radcliffe that he is now, that they will not expect. His enthusiasm is infectious. Like, he is so meticulous. He is so, like, if there was anyone ill-prepared on this film, it was me and Chan. If there was anyone over-prepared, it was Daniel. He plays this character, Jack Traynor, who is someone who goes in and tactically retrieves kidnapped people and, does things like that. He had a very specific take on his character, very granola, very Buddhist, very a man of the earth. And when he and Chan, because they spent most of their time together, him and Chan, and they are so good together. Like, I want to see a road movie with just the two of them. And he comes in and tactically retrieves Loretta, my character, with Channing following him like a Labrador puppy. Which we all do, Bradley. We all follow her. Davine's amazing. We're best friends. We've worked together for many, many years. She's the one who keeps the ball rolling. She's burning the candle at every end. She's a businesswoman who's trying to make her mark, and she has the one client that she's put all her chips on, who is just unraveling, who is not living up to her end of the deal. But she has to also be super sensitive and kind about this woman who's just flailing. She's an aging writer who's just flailing. She just cannot get her groove. And the great thing about Davine's part is that she has to carry the energy, the urgency, and the comedy. And she does all three flawlessly. Patty, you just turn the camera on and just let her vomit out whatever she has in her head. And you are laughing, you are crying, you are shocked, I don't know how she does what she does, because she has a stream of consciousness in her comedy that can go so dark, and you find yourself laughing, and you're like, is it okay to laugh? Like, she's really brave. She's really brave in her comedy, and she's brilliant when she's really still. Not a lot of people can pull a comedy off being super still and dry. And her and Beth together, her and Davine together, Davine's character Beth, and Patty's name is Allison. The two of them together are so good. We benefited from this really generous place, not just visually, but environmentally and emotionally. And it was an amazing journey of many puzzle pieces needing to come together, and that did come together to make a film that you want to see in the theaters, that you get this big, massive landscape, you get deep, meaningful storytelling, you get comedy, you get a lot of action, you get Bradley Pitt, you get Channing Tatum. Oscar was the first person I wanted to cast before we had anybody else cast. When we did this, I said, I told the writer, we need to write a part for Oscar. I need to be in his presence again. I didn't have enough to do with him, so we wrote Oscar before we actually hired him. So we wrote the role, realized there was another film coming after them. I was like, wait a minute, we write this for him and we haven't cast him? So he was the first actor on the list of casting. So this jumpsuit, as problematic as it was genius. Because had we been in the jungle and I was wearing something brown or khaki, something that was appropriate for the jungle, we would not visually have the film that we have now. We have a sequined jumpsuit that's in fuchsia, in this gorgeous greenery. You know where we are. There's not one second, I don't care how far that helicopter shot gets, you know where we are. We save money on visual effects because you know where we are. I'm like a walking disco ball. It's like the whole world saw me on satellite. The taxing thing was it's hot. You're in a jumpsuit. I'm going to be talking about the jumpsuit for the rest of my life, but would I have changed it? Hell no, because it was funny, it was inappropriate. Here was this woman with a stick up her butt who just couldn't get out of her own way. It was so tight and she just couldn't relax, and she was in a jumpsuit that she was forced into at the beginning of the film by her bestie. She said, just wear it for 2 hours, it's on loan, it'll make you sparkly, somehow it will make her sexier. It didn't. And you just return it and we'll be done. Little did she know she would be kidnapped in the jumpsuit, in a jungle, in the Dominican Republic.